Hello there and welcome back to another episode of our Luminar NEO Academy, the show where we help you to get the most out of this photo editing application. Now, if you've never been here before, my name is Jakub and I'm a creator and founder here at Clever Photographer. Now, before we going to start, I have a few things I want to cover. First of all, at the end of the video, I'm gonna give you access to our popular Luminar NEO shortcut cheat sheet, so you make sure that you stay until the end. Also, if you don't own Luminar NEO or the HDR Merge plugin, get our discount code to get the best possible price, and you can find it in the description of this video. Finally, I would like to ask you to please like, comment and share on this video, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel so we can keep creating content like this. In this tutorial, I'm gonna show you how to adjust skin tones on your photos directly in Luminar NEO. Now, beautiful skin tones are something that we all want to achieve in our images. But learning how to color correct skin tones can be a difficult thing to master. Luckily, finding that sweet spot is a lot easier than it seems, and it can be achieved with a few simple tools. In this video, I'm going to show you the basic tools available in Luminar NEO for skin tone adjustments. Now, before we going to continue, I want to mention that this episode is powered by our Luminar NEO Power Bundle. The Power Bundle offers over 980 new elements to power up your favorite Luminar NEO tools. You can get extra skies, overlays, textures, backgrounds, sky objects, LUTs and presets. If you're interested in portrait photography, you can find easy to use presets, powerful LUTs, and creative backgrounds that will give you new level of possibilities. If you're interested in this bundle, just follow the link in the description for the best available price or visit our website directly at cleverphotographer.com. Okay, so as you can see, we are in Luminar NEO and we are starting in a catalog module. We are looking at our sample file, and once again, if you want to join me and do the edit on your own computer, all you need to do is to follow the link in the description of this video, head to our Dropbox account and download the sample files there. Now let's just make this a little smaller, and as you can see, we have the same image in two versions. The first one is a RAW file and the second one is a TIFF file. Now I already took the RAW file, made a very simple edit to it, some corrections, and we're gonna continue with the TIFF file because it's just a little bit faster. If you wanna do the edit, you're more than welcome to use the image as well, the RAW image, and start from there. However, for now, let's select the TIFF file, click on it, and then click on Edit on the top of the screen to bring it into Edit module. So the first thing we're gonna do here, we're gonna zoom a little bit more on the model so we can see more of the skin. To do that, you can simply click on the image, or you can also head to the bottom of the screen where there is a little zoom shortcut. Click on that and select the value you're looking for, maybe like 25, or in our case, maybe 50. And then when you hover over the image, you will see that your mouse changed to this little hand, and then you can just move around. I think 100 is too much. Let's go for 50 for the time being. So now we have the model visible and we can see the skin nicely. So how are we gonna adjust the skin? So before we're gonna start, I wanna mention that all the tools we're gonna be using can be also used in a combination with the masking. So rather than adjusting the entire image, which we already done during the development process, we can focus only on the skin or the person. I will show you how to do that a little later. I just want you to know that that's a possibility. But now the first tool we're going to be using is probably the most basic tool, however also one of the most powerful tools, and that's the Develop tool. So for this we need to go into our main toolbar, go into the Essentials section of the main toolbar, and then go into the Develop tool. Click on it to open it, and the first part we're going to be focusing on is the light and blacks and whites. Of course that by adjusting exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, black and whites, you're having impact on the entire image. But by doing that, you're also impacting the skin tones. So let's start from the top of the list. Looking at the exposure, you will need to set the exposure properly for the entire photo in order to have the correct lighting. That includes the person. You don't want your image to be too bright and you don't want it to be too dark. So you just need to make sure that you come out with natural edit. So of course now when I play around with the exposure, When I push it, you can see we're getting much brighter skin. And when I go the other way, we make it much darker. When you make it darker, you can see lots of the skin features are coming out, like dark circles under the eyes, other blemishes, and some other imperfections. So let's just double click on the exposure, reset it, and continue to the next slider we can use here. The next slider is the Smart Contrast. Now, when it comes to adjusting the skin tones, too much contrast will not give you a nice look on your skin, especially if you have imperfections, spots and so on. Not enough contrast will give you a flat effect, so you really need to find a sweet spot between. Let's have a look at it. When I really push this contrast, once again, similarly like to exposure, you can see that we are really getting lots of these dark areas in this part of the face as well, under the neck and on her skin. So let's have a look again, before and after. Now, when we go the other way around and talking about making the image flat, you will see that we are really losing the texture and details on the skin. Now, that can be maybe effect you're looking for. However, once again, you're really looking for something that is more balanced. So let's reset it and continue on the highlights and shadows. With the highlights, you're looking for the correct highlights to control the brightness on the photo. You want it to look natural, and the highlights can help you to create soft glow on your skin. So how would you do that? Well, with the highlights, when you bring them down, you make the brighter parts of the image darker. So keep an eye, for example, on this area of the leg or on her face, or also maybe right here on the door. When I bring them down, you can see how these areas are getting darker. Now, when I reset it and I go the other way around, you can see that actually these areas are getting brighter and some other parts of the image are getting brighter as well. And you can use that when you're creating certain looks. So let's reset the highlights and focus on shadows. Now, when it comes to shadows and skin tones, you really want to be careful here. Pushing the shadows too much, you will add too many of the face and skin features. When you close them too much, they will disappear and the result is not going to be natural. So with the shadows, just be gentle and maybe keep an eye on the image and just open them up a little bit if you want to. If you think that you have too many details, you can close them the other way around. So the shadows, one of the sliders to be a little careful with, as you don't want to make it too unnatural. After that, we can move to the blacks and whites. Another set of really powerful tools here. The black and whites are generally used during the development of the image. And when it comes to skin tones, you want to use them only if you feel that the image is too dark or too light. So that's the basic functions here. The light and blacks often used during the development of the image, so you can already keep an eye on the skin tones during that. Now let's close this section and let's move into the color. Let's open the color, and here we have 4 sliders and 1 drop-down box. Well, what we adjusting here? We're adjusting the white balance, and that's a mix of temperature and tint sliders, and then we adjusting saturation and vibrance. So let's start with the white balance. Now, the white balance is a tool that is more used for a global adjustment. You will adjust the white balance for the overall image. Now, you can make it warmer or you can make it cooler. And you can also adjust the tint. You can make it a little more magenta or a little more green. So that's what you do generally on the beginning when you're developing the image. However, still, it's important to remember that by adjusting these sliders, it does have an impact on the skin tones. So once again, with the temperature, when I want to make the overall image warmer and I increase the temperature slider, you can see how quickly are the skin tones affected. So something to remember. Double click to reset and move into the saturation and vibrance. With the saturation and vibrance, the main difference is that the saturation actually adjusts all the colors in the photo equally. If your photo looks dull or too colorful, you can adjust the saturation and play around with it. So let me show you. When I increase the saturation, you can see how everything is getting more saturated. And once again, that includes the skin tones. When I reset it and go the other way, you can see that when I go all the way, the picture basically becomes black and white. So again, double click on the saturation and we continue from here. After that, we have a vibrance. Now the vibrance is a smarter version of a saturation. So basically, instead of adjusting all the colors at the same time and together, it takes the tones that are a little bit lower and it increases them. So for example, when I take the vibrance and push it up, you can see how very gently some of the skin tones are improving, how some of the blue, lighter blue colors are getting more saturated. So let's say that we are on a 30, and let's have a look at the before and after, very gentle. And when we reset it and go with the saturation to 30, you will see how quickly we're getting well oversaturated, and the result isn't natural at all. So the result of this learning is that when you want to adjust the skin tones, stay with the vibrance as much as you can, and if you really need, only if you really need, use the saturation slider. So those were the first set of tools that you can use for adjusting the skin tones. Once again, color with our white balance, saturation, and vibrance. Then we also look at the black and whites, and we look at the exposure, smart contrast, highlights, and shadows. Now let's close these. Let's close the light, and let's again open the color. Here, let's increase the vibrance. So just gently, somewhere around 25. And this is a moment where I want to talk to you about using the masking. So let's just zoom out. And looking at the image, let's have a look at the before and after. And you can see that by using the vibrance slider, I am also affecting the rest of the image. Now in this case, it's not a problem because the blue actually looks quite nice. However, let's say that you really want to apply these tools only to the skin or to the person. So how would we do this? Well, for this, we need to go into the masking, which is available on all the tools here in Luminar NEO. Click on it, and here we have two ways to do this. You can use brush immediately and just brush over the parts of the skin, or we can use the help of the Mask AI for the first part. So let's click on a Mask AI. And as you can see, it takes a moment and it basically scans the image and it identifies different objects and elements on it. Once it's finished, it will give us options of different elements to select. So for us, we are looking at the human. So we click on the human, and that's that. And now we can click back. And here in this area, we can go into the mask actions and click on show. Now, as you're going to see, it did a pretty decent job. It's not great. However, it's a good starting point. So obviously, we can choose what we want to do. We can leave it the way it is, or we can brush some parts away. So let's say we want to work really just on the skin. So for this, let's zoom on the hat here and then go into the brush tool. In the brush tool, we want to make sure that we are on an erase as we are removing part of the mask. And then we can adjust our brush here. We can make it smaller or bigger. We can adjust the softness of the brush and the strength. Well, let's leave the strength on, softness on. Let's make it a little bigger and let's just brush away very quickly these areas. Now, I'm not going to do greatest job here because I don't want to bore you, but you're getting the idea of what you can do. So basically, I'm going to brush away the hat. And then with my backspace, I can move around and brush away some other parts. Around the hair, the door here, yep, and here. And then maybe again around the head. Now, with the clothes, it really is up to you to see what you want to do. That was the hand, so we want to bring it back. To bring some part back, if I make a mistake, I can hit X on my keyboard, which will switch it back to the paintbrush, or I can go into the develop tool again, into the masking, and just click on paint. So now, when I paint over an area, I'm adding it back to my mask. And then again, I can hit X and continue erasing. And this way I can just switch between and keep adjusting the brush. So for this moment, this is enough. You're getting the idea, I'm sure, of what you can do and what are the possibilities with masking. And for now, let's just zoom out and let's go back. And when I go back to the adjustments, you will see that the mask disappears and we can continue with the edit. So again, now when I adjust the vibrance, you see that I'm only adjusting the clothes and the skin. Once again, if you don't want to adjust the clothes, you just use the masking brush and brush away the clothes. So now let's reset the vibrance and we are done with the develop tool. So you get the idea what we can do here. Let's close the color section. Let's close the develop tool and we continue. The next tool we're going to be using is the color tool. So we are still in the essential section. Click on the color tool. And here I want you to go directly into the HSL panel. If you don't see it, just click on the HSL and it will open. Let's make it nice and visible. And first come first, at the top, when you click on a gray drop-down box, you have a selection between hue, saturation, and luminance. So those are the three things we can adjust on these specific colors. If you want to see the full tutorial on how to use the color tool, we have it available on our YouTube channel, and I will link it in the top right corner of your screen. So let's just close it and let's talk about the colors. Now, when it comes to adjusting the skin tones, generally you work with three colors: red, orange, and yellow. And out of the three, most of the time you work with orange. So orange is specifically very common on the skin. So orange is the first color you should start with. And then we can look at the red, and if it needs to be done, we can adjust the yellow too. So first come first, let's zoom in again to somewhere around 50 so we can see what we're doing here. And let's start with the orange. Now, while we on the hue, we are actually shifting the tone of the color. So now we are in the middle. However, what we can do, we can take the orange and make it almost red. Now keep an eye on the image, which almost make it look like she's really badly sunburned. So let's reset it. And now when we take the orange and push it the other way around, we're gonna make it much more like yellow. Let's push it. Now in this case it's green because the yellow and the white balance on this image is green. However, you get the idea. So basically, in the middle is the original color. When you go down, it goes into the next available color above, which in this case is red. And when you go the other way around, it goes to next available color under, which in this case is yellow. So with the orange, we can adjust the hue and the tone of the skin, which includes orange color. So for us, I would make it maybe just a little bit more red. So we're adjusting orange now. For this, we go now into the drop-down box and we're going into the saturation. Now with the saturation, we already mentioned earlier in the develop tool, we're adjusting the amount of the orange color on the skin tones. So let's bring the orange all the way down, which removes all of the orange from the image. Or we can really go the other way around and once again push it way too much. So with the orange here, maybe let's just add a little bit, somewhere around 10. Once we finish, we can go to the third and final option here, which is the luminance. The luminance basically adjusts the brightness of that specific color. So with our orange, we can make the orange much brighter and lit up the skin a lot. Or we can go the other way around and make it much darker. Now the luminance is often used to create a little bit of the tan effect. You know, when you go to the sun and when you have a nice color, you can bring it down and make it just a little bit darker. So that's with the orange. However, I mentioned that we also adjust red and yellow. And to see how much of each of the color is in the image, the best way to do it is to go into the saturation and then play around with the sliders here. So let's have a look at the red. When you play around with the red, you can see that there's actually lots of red on her skin. Because when I go down, you can see how much of it disappeared. So we will adjust the red as well. But let's double check the yellow. When I play around with the yellow, you actually can't see much changing on her skin. So that tells us that there is not much yellow on the skin and we don't need to worry about it. So for this, we know that the red is the next color we need to take care of. So let's jump into the hue and let's have a look at the red as well. So if we take the red and push it towards the left, it will become more purple. Once again, very unnatural. And when we push it the other way around, it actually becomes a little bit more orange, which in this case doesn't look great neither. I would just reset it and leave it the way it is. Now let's go into the saturation, where I would take the red and make it just a little bit more saturated. Very gently here, not too crazy, maybe just somewhere around 5. And finally, going into the luminance, once again, possibility of creating that tan effect, maybe just something like this if we want to, or brightening the overall skin if we want by going higher. Let's have a look. I think just somewhere around, in this case, maybe 0 actually works the best, but if we want, let's continue with the tan look and leave it on 4. Now let's zoom out and let's have a look at the before and after. And you can see how we managed to get that tan look. However, the result will really depend on your personal taste. You don't need to worry about what I'm doing too much. You don't need to copy these numbers. It's really up to you what is the effect you want to establish. If you want really bright and light skin, then you would take the sliders the other way around. If you want it tanned like this, you can do something like this. And now it's time to look at the tools that are specifically designed for portrait photography here in Luminar NEO. And as you probably know, they are available in a portrait section of the main toolbar. How do you adjust the skin tones here? Well, there are two tools we can use here. First one is the Face AI, and second is the Skin AI. So starting with the Face AI, let's click on it to open it. Again, make sure that it's nice and visible. And again, zoom into 50%. So what are the options here when it comes to skin tone? Well, first of all, we can use the face light slider to add a little bit more brightness to the model skin or to the subject skin. So you can see when I play around with it, it really is focusing just on the face. Now you don't want to overdo it, as when I zoom out, you see it becomes really unnatural. However, somewhere usually around 10 or 15 actually does work quite well. After this, we have the slim face slider, which really has nothing to do with the skin tone, so we don't need to worry about it. Eyes, also again, not the skin tones. But when it comes to mouth section, and specifically when you do some big adjustments to the skin tones, it's good to know that you can do some additional adjustments here to then balance the lips and the mouth together with the rest of the skin. So you can add more saturation, you can add more redness, you can make your lips darker, and while we're here, you can also make the teeth whiter. Of course, there's no teeth here, so let's not worry about it again. Once we finish, we can close it, and we can reset the tool, close it, and we're gonna continue. So that's the Face AI. And the final tool, again, here in the portrait section is the Skin AI, and here we have two simple sliders plus one checkbox. Now with the amount, we're adding a little bit of the glow and a little bit of that kind of Instagram effect. Let's just zoom in a little more and let's push the amount a lot so you can see the before and after. Now it's quite nice tool when it's used with balance. However, you really don't want to overdo it as the result is really not natural at all. After that, we have the shine removal, which is also really cool. You can use that. I usually really push it because it helps to remove some of the unwanted shine from the skin. Now with the skin defects removal, it doesn't work all the time, so be careful there. And if you want to remove something from the skin, I would rather suggest you to use the erase tool in the essentials section of the main toolbar right here. Or if you have something a little bit more difficult, use the clone tool, which is also really helpful. Of course that you can still try the skin defects removal AI tool. However, if you're really going for something a little bit more complex, the clone and the erase tool is the way to go. And there you have it. If you want a copy of our popular Luminar NEO shortcut cheat sheet, there is nothing easier than heading to our website cleverphotographer.com/luminargift. While you're there, you can also check out one of our popular Luminar NEO products, or you can stay here and watch more videos about Luminar NEO. For today, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please make sure that you like, comment, and share on this video. And also don't forget to subscribe to our channel so we can keep creating content like this. For today, thank you very much for watching. My name was Jakub, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.